Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We're first going to do a round of introductions, and then we'll get right into the subject matter. So I'm Rebecca Liao. I'm co-founder and CEO at Saga. We are a metaverse platform looking to launch the next 1,000 chains in the multiverse. Let me pass it along.
Cool. My name's Rob Solomon, co-founder and CFO at DIMO. We are a mobility IoT platform. We connect cars to the internet, give them blockchain-based identity, and attach telemetry data to that as well.
Hi, my name's Lisa, co-founder and CMO of Async Art. We're one of the first premier NFT minting platforms that allows creators to create dynamic, generative artworks or music without knowing a single line of code.
I'm Jeremy Kauffman, the CEO of LBRY, which is a Web3 protocol for publishing. Over 30 million people use it each month through a website called Odyssey, and we're also, many people know us for a big battle with the SEC that's going to be decided any day now.
Hi, Jeff Thompson, Chief Blockchain Officer at Roofstock. We have made it possible to buy and sell single-family homes with one click using a standard NFT smart contract.
Awesome. Well, great to have you guys on the panel. So the topic that we're talking about today is how we're disrupting trad industries. And so let's go down the road real quick, and if you could identify which industries you're trying to disrupt.
So with DIMO, we're very directly competing with companies that do vehicle analytics and data. But more indirectly, we're disrupting the Ubers, the Geicos, the banks that underwrite auto loans, of the world, the DMV even. We're providing, when you think about what Uber does, for example, like they are mainly credentialing drivers, proving trips happen, settling payments, and that can all be done with more scalable, decentralized identity and telemetry data. So we're providing a foundation that someone could build a much leaner version of all these kind of incumbent businesses on.
At Async Art, we're definitely trying to disrupt the art as well as the music industry. Art, especially in the fine arts industry, has always been kind of gated, whether it be curation in the gallery front or from the auction houses. We truly believe that a creator's economy is upon us, and that a decentralized audience should be able to determine what is good art or what is art that resonates with you, instead of a black box kind of council of people behind a curtain. And on the music front, as we all know, Spotify, Pandora, streaming services has definitely been the dominant player in terms of getting a musician to get across to a huge amount of audience. At Async, we actually offer a product that allows a musician, an indie musician, to reach a bunch of collectors or community base without having to go through certain distribution or publishing channels.
LBRY is disrupting Web 2 social or Web 2 social video specifically. There's now over 20 million videos available via the LBRY protocol. Tens of millions of people use Odyssey, ODYSEE, each month to access it. So this is not a theoretical disruption. This is one that's actually happening right now.
So we're working in the real estate industry, which needs no introduction in terms of why blockchain has a lot of promise to disrupt and improve the way things are done. We're abstracting away the complexities and the bureaucracy that's kind of evolved over, call it 800 years of transacting in real estate the old-fashioned way, and replacing that with a smart contract infrastructure and some new legal constructs that allow it to be done instantaneously.
Fantastic. Now, thank you all for introducing your projects. So one of the first questions, and I know this having been in crypto for about 6-7 years now, one of the first questions that trad industry will ask you is, well, what is the value add of Web3? Because yes, digitization is important, innovation is important, but I don't understand why I need to go through the trouble of instituting this blockchain network or being a part of this blockchain network or sponsoring a blockchain application. And so what is it that you say to your customers or your end users when they ask you why Web3 for this particular industry? Anyone?
Sure. I mean, in our case, this one's pretty easy because we see it happen all the time. You know, you don't own your online identity. You have a relationship with your creator, with your fans. That can be ended at big tech's discretion whenever you like. And I could spend 30 minutes reciting examples. We all know it happens. So it's very straightforward. We now say we can go to a creator and say, your handle can't get taken away from you. Your relationship with your fans can't get taken away from you. And both sides like that. If you're the viewer, if you're the fan, I don't want the middleman to be able to make those decisions for me. So it's a very straightforward appeal in our case.
It's very idealistic, and we're not quite that idealistic, but practical. In the real estate setting, what are we solving for? In a transaction, the buyer wants to make sure that they're getting the property they think they're getting. The seller wants to make sure that they're getting paid. That's all that you have to solve for. And if you look at the way that the industry is developed, you have like a constellation of 12 intermediaries that somehow get involved there to solve just those two things. And if you think about it in terms of blockchain, you can put a smart contract in the middle of that, and that achieves both of those. So the contract will look at the buyer's wallet. Does it have the funds? Look at the seller's wallet. Does it have the token representing the home? If yes, execute. If not, it doesn't. Of course, there are other things that have to be solved, diligence, inspections. The buyer has to know what they're getting. We're a real estate company. We've been doing that for a long time, so we know what information needs to be surfaced. So it's a combination of presenting the information in a different way and pairing that with a smart contract, and then adding crypto so that it can actually execute instantaneously. And that's literally can't be done without blockchain.
I think the concept of transparency is so key and probably, universal here, right? In terms of the art and music industries, there is a little bit of a smoke and mirrors of middleman, right? Who, like I mentioned before, kind of determines what's good and what's, mainstream adoptable. And once you've distributed that responsibility across a wider network, or at least have people who vote by collecting those artists or content creators' pieces, I think that in itself is very compelling. Yeah.
In our case, so actually we almost exclusively say Web3 now, but I'll take you back. A few years we used to say distributed ledger technology a lot. And I think in our case, that's what really makes what we're doing compelling. I mean, if you want to get all the auto manufacturers and banks and insurance companies and DMVs around the world to agree on a canonical source of vehicle identity and data, I mean, you could have like global DMV server if all the DMVs around the world agreed to create a shared server for vehicle identity and a protocol for that. But until that happens, we need something that is credibly neutral, scalable, open, and gives businesses the trusted foundation to build upon that. Someone's not going to pull the rug out from underneath them on it. So the blockchain aspect allows us to build something that is trustless enough that a already very decentralized and fragmented industry, the automotive industry, I mean, even within each category like car manufacturer, very decentralized, but even more so when you consider all the businesses built on top of it, gives us the amount of neutrality needed to actually produce something that could work.
Fantastic. So I'm hearing themes here of transparency, self-determination, control over your digital life. I think these are all value propositions that we in this room are very familiar with in Web3, but really bringing it to fruition and taking it to market is a challenge of all these projects that are building in this space. My 2 cents here real quick. So Saga works in gaming and entertainment, and most of the time you wouldn't think of gaming as a traditional industry, but there definitely is Web2 gaming out there that is quite hostile to Web3 because they think of it as an NFT money grab. They don't understand why it's so difficult to get access to this game because most of them don't have wallets. And so they're thinking, what is the value proposition of this? And it's true, definitely for gamers, that they do become great fans of these games. They contribute their time, their effort, their money, and they feel as though, as part of the community, that whoever the game publisher is or the game creator does not respect their contribution. The community respects it, though, and so when you have the decentralization aspect of Web3, you're able to really tap into that. So it brings me to a deeper question, which I'm sure when you guys talk to your customers, they all want to know, okay, what does the product look like? And it's true that when you're trying to disrupt a traditional industry, there is something there. There's a product there that kind of sort of works. And so when you bring your new and improved product to the table, how do you determine the feature set? How do you hone in on what is that nugget or set of nuggets that the users really want in order to make the Web3 experience real for them? Anyone?
Sure. All right. And I'm going to always go first. So I think I like to say in my company, I say this to our people all the time, that blockchain is a how. It's not a why. Blockchain is not intrinsically better. The reason to do something can't be blockchain. It has to be that blockchain is enabling us to build something or to do something that could not be done before. Users don't care. No one wants to know how an internal combustion engine works. They want to get in a car and they want to drive it. So you have to don't leak as little of the blockchain stuff to your users as possible. Give them an experience that's better than the status quo, and that's all that it's about.
Yeah, totally agree. From the beginning, we were very skeptical, even because people have talked about real estate tokenization and done it for many years now. It hasn't quite taken off. We think we have a different way to do that, which actually can and should be transformative and take off, because it does finally incorporate that last mile. It connects the person, it connects the property to the blockchain, and allows you to do the transaction on chain, which previously it wasn't really possible. There was kind of a blockchain in the background, but there were still a lot of intermediaries that had to be part of it. So what problem are we solving? On one side, we want the obvious, delightful transaction of purchasing real estate with one click, never been done before. And then also to be able to transact using crypto. That's still very difficult to do in the US. And basically, most title companies and intermediaries aren't able to deal with crypto. They don't know what that is, how that works. And with our structure, we're able to fully transact in crypto. So solving two usability issues in an asset class that already has a strong pull through.
Yeah, excellent comment on it should be the how, not the why. And in the case of DIMO, if we think about what success looks like, imagining a world where every car's got a blockchain-based digital identity, where every auto loan and insurance application and Web3, Uber and peer-to-peer car sharing is built on top of DIMO. If you work your way back to how do we get there, it's about creating an enticing platform for developers, and you get that when you have an open and scalable foundation to build on that they can trust. And also when you have a lot of users. And so one aspect that we're going to use the blockchain is to hand over control to users, and they'll be able to earn rewards. We'll give them control over the network. So that's been proven to be an effective bootstrapping mechanism to build up the supply of drivers, which could then attract more developers and get that flywheel going on adoption. We very much don't want to rely on that. A lot of trailblazing projects have leaned very heavily on the token rewards as the reason to show up. We want to also give users a very compelling reason to show up as well, whether it's getting better prices when they go to sell their car, better insurance, better auto loans, things like that. And we want to do that very quickly as well. So not just leaning on the blockchain.
Yeah, and then going off of your early comment about doing something that Web 2 cannot possibly replicate, right? I think async art definitely embodies that message. Creating these dynamic pieces of art that lives on the blockchain, that's actually influenced by the user's input, whether it be their wallets or changing some variables and whatnot. Those actually cannot exist before on a Web 2 level. You can't have a physical painting that changes and moves or tracks the prices of Ethereum in its output. So those are very super exciting for us. And then on another note, with art and music, those are all two very emotional mediums. It becomes more and more compelling when it emotionally resonates with people. So going back to the Spotify model, right? When you're streaming a song, you're just passively listening to it. You have no emotional attachment to it. But when you own a one-to-one of a randomly generated variant of the same song directly from the artist, all of a sudden it feels like you got a personalized vinyl, if so to speak, from your favorite musician, and that in itself becomes way more compelling, and I hope people recognize that.
Fantastic. So I'm starting to hear a theme here that obviously, I think if there's one thing that we've been beating the drum on, and that's because we're getting closer and closer to mass adoption, it is that we don't want people to notice the blockchain on the back end. It shouldn't be the case that Web3 sort of in your face when you're the end user. You should just get the functionality from the product that you want. And I think that's absolutely true. But what we're all sort of starting to go towards, and Lisa, you really highlighted this, is what Web3 content looks like, what a Web3 app looks like, may be something that we don't see right now. It may be the case that the infrastructure is opening up new possibilities for functionality in products that we're just not familiar with as predominantly Web 2 users. So I want to tap into our inner degens because when we say traditional industry, most of the time we also think heavily regulated industry or industries with really established players who have massive SAP systems, for instance, and so there's a lot of tech debt. How do you bust through all of that and just put a really kick-ass product in front of the user and they're like, okay, I don't know if this is legal, but it's so convenient and it's so valuable that I'm just going to go for it anyway. And we saw that with cryptocurrency, definitely. But we saw it with Uber, for instance. They didn't go to taxi companies and the transportation authorities and say, maybe we want to start this service. Is this okay? They just, it's like, you know what? You want to give this person a ride, go for it. Our app will facilitate that. Or even with TikTok, I mean, with all the national security concerns around the fact that it's a Chinese app and potentially used for spying and all those things, nevertheless, with a certain age group, they're like, this is the medium that we want. We want to create, these 10-second videos that go viral and we become celebrities, et cetera. But I've made the point of the fact that there are some users that are just going to latch on to a Web3 product and just take it to scale. So what do you think that could potentially look like for your industries? If you could say, fuck the authorities, what would you build?
So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're probably, of the 12 months that we spent in earnest on this project, at least 9 have been heavy lifting on legal. I'm a lawyer, including up through the wee hours of this morning, drafting documents for this project. There are an infinite number of legal issues, both on blockchain, then you add securities, and then you have tax, and then you have all of the real estate infrastructure. Our approach has been look under every stone, turn over every, go down every dead end and figure out how to solve every little issue, because later on, if this catches on, we don't want it to blow up in our faces. So it really hasn't been, screw it, let's just try this and hope that it works. No, let's put in all the time and the effort to go through all of the legal, and we have a dozen different law firms, each with their own little specialty from electronic signatures to commercial law and everything else. Let's put all those together in the same place at the same time, come up with a new system to transact, and then what we want to give back to the community is our set of documents, our legal analyses, and say, hey guys, we spent a lot of time and money on this. I think the Web3 ethos is let's give back, fork it, learn from it, criticize it, make it better, and let's move this thing forward together.
Does everyone agree with that?
Sure, I agree with that. I mean, I'm arguably the least qualified person to give advice on this topic because I believe I'm the only one currently.
Tell us about your T-shirt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Got to give the people what they want. Someone gave this shirt to me, so I actually forget who. Thank you, whoever you are. So yeah, I'm being sued by the SEC. Arguably not qualified to answer this. I do agree that going as big as possible. Like I wish I had gone bigger. I tried to do it the right way. I got in trouble for being open and transparent and honest, and the people who went bigger ended up getting in less trouble. So there is a lesson in that. And then the other thing I'd say is really like the notion of there being this objective rule of law is a completely false notion. It is not a true notion. The laws are not enforced objectively. The laws are not enforced fairly. Regulators have their own biases and things that they're interested in. So don't model it that way. And the lawyers will frequently, the way that lawyers will interact with you, they'll tell you the letter of the law. That's not the way enforcement works. So go beyond what your lawyer tells you. Understand the agencies that you're actually dealing with. Understand their motivations and who are they going to go after. Because there absolutely are ways where there are sometimes ways where you can do it anyway and not get their attention. So that's what I'll say.
Thanks for sharing that, Jeremy. So real quick, Lisa, Rob, I want to give you guys a chance to chime in.
Yeah, more on the music side, I would say music IP, legal licensing is always very interesting on the music side. Trying to stay high level here, can't disclose much, but yeah, definitely do your research, due diligence beforehand. I think we spent maybe close to 20 hours to 40 hours of our lawyers before we even launched our music product, just because the streaming asset of it, the public performance, and as well as the artists themselves uploading the digital stems and the digital assets, being in our tool, and then spitting out something completely new that all kind of goes in line with regulation. Yeah.
And then I would say we're probably a little bit of an outlier in that in what we're building, we're largely helped by regulation. The port that we plug our devices into in cars to get data from is protected by legislation. It's the port that mechanics and inspectors use to read the codes off of your engine. And so I think Tesla actually tried to pull it out, and then the government made them put it back in. And we are even going beyond like GDPR and these like privacy regulations to give control to users, all very fine-grained opt-in. They own the data, and so in a lot of ways, some of these things actually provide some help to us. The thing I will say, though, is for the longest time, you look at these applications, Facebook's, Uber's, whatever, and people complain about the lack of alignment with the users, with the drivers in the case of Uber, whatever it is, and how it would have been better if those people who built the networks also shared in the upside. And it's you kind of blame the companies and greedy corporations, and you kind of realize after me in this position trying to figure out a way to make this work for a year, it's actually just really hard to give control to users. The government really doesn't seem to want that. They want you to give the control of the company and the protocol to accredited investors only, really. And that's unfortunate, but hopefully it's something that we're making progress on as an industry, and hopefully we have more clear regulatory frameworks in the future that make this easier.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, guys. So we have about a minute and a half left, which I do want to give over to the audience for any questions or thoughts. If anyone has questions for the panel, or we can keep going. No? All right. Well, you can find us all afterwards, but thank you guys for the fantastic remarks. As you can see, when you're trying to disrupt trad industry, in this space, there's a lot of navigation that happens between what currently is and where you're trying to get to. And it's having done this previously, I know it's not easy for these projects to do that. So kudos to you guys. Thank you for all the effort in building your projects. And yeah, if you want to find us later for conversation, we're around. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.